Merry Christmas and a sustainable and inclusive New Year initiative. This holiday season, we are proud to present an initiative that combines the festive spirit with a meaningful purpose, raising awareness about sustainability and eco-friendliness during the holidays while advocating for inclusivity and addressing the challenges faced by people with disabilities. At our Herbal House, sustainability is at the heart of everything we do. As a center for sustainable development, we champion herbalism's potential for tourism, economic growth, and social entrepreneurship, guided by the principles of the circular economy and green innovation. Our mission extends to empowering rural communities through herbal tourism, introducing innovative experiences such as the region's first recreational tours with medicinal herbs designed for people with disabilities. By creating inclusive opportunities, promoting skill development, and fostering entrepreneurship in rural areas, we contribute to local economic growth while preserving nature's resources. This initiative will consist of 2 interviews, the first one with Aisha Hussein, the co-founder of Eco Artisan, and the second one with Shamsiyyah Umar, the co-founder of We Are Special Foundation. Special thanks to both of them for letting us share their vision and introduce their projects and future plans with us. Join us in celebrating and sharing this initiative this season of joy, inclusion, and sustainability as we work together to build a brighter, greener future for all.
I'm from Nigeria. I advocate for the inclusion of persons with disabilities through, it's called the Special Physically Challenged Care Foundation, but we call it We Are Special in short form, because we don't just reach out to persons with physically challenges. We reach out to all persons with disabilities, all spheres, including those with special needs like cerebral palsy, autism, etc. So that's what we do. Our work aligns with 5 of the SDG goals, but obviously, SDG overlaps a lot. So we try as much as possible to touch some parts of the SDGs, but 5 of it is our main goal. It's our main thematic area. That's SDG goal 3, which is good health and well-being. 4, quality education. 5, gender equality. 8, 10 is the heart of our project, because we are all aiming to reduce inequality in our society, inequality, and then bridge the gap between persons with disabilities and those without. And then SDG 13, climate action. We ventured into climate action because in Nigeria and in my own state, so I'm from Nasarawa State, but I live in FCT. In my own state, we have a lot of problem with waste and waste management, and it hinders accessibility of persons with disabilities. So it's quite a lot for a person in a wheelchair or a crutches to move around freely, because there's always a pile of waste, and it's detrimental to their health. So that's why we are so extensive in advocating for climate change. And we ventured, like you've seen in our page, we've done projects with Embassy of Germany in Abuja, where we conducted step-down trainings just to create a general awareness on climate change. We did a community dialogue. In fact, next week we're doing a stakeholder dialogue, because we created a whole document on how we can best combat climate change disasters and how we can be climate resilient in my own state, unique to the challenges of my own state. So it's a lot, and I'm so proud of my team. We pull it through. For the past 4 months, we've been working extensively for it, and we're almost through. Basically, that's what we do. We've done a lot. We reach out to more children and young girls. So what I forgot to mention is I'm a person with disability myself. I had my disability at the age of 12. I was in an accident and almost at amputation, but thank God, my leg was amputated. So I have a deformity in my right leg, and I need support sometimes to walk with walking sticks or crutches. It depends on my mood. I can be a rebellious person if I want to be. So, yeah, that's why. So growing up, I faced a lot of stigma. There was inaccessibility. I remember when I went to a normal school. I didn't go to special school. I remember one time I was having a laser device on my leg, that round iron thing. I know how heavy it is. And then my school is like a two-story building, and I had exams. It wasn't accessible. They had to make me sit in the sun
Oh my
in the
God.
middle of my school, write my exam. So it was really hurtful for me. Going
I'm
to
so sorry.
university, I struggled. In fact, in school, I barely had friends because they looked at me as, who is this person? So it's a lot. It's a lot. Thank you so much. And that's all for now.
Well, just from the first thing that you said, I have so many things to talk about, so many things to ask you, but I would like to start because you did mention waste. And the first part of
Mm,
our project was about that, about how during the holidays people overspend, overbuy, overdo much of
mm.
the things that they do. And so, as a person with a disability, do you personally think that during this time it is harder to manage traveling or working or going place to place, or how do you feel about that?
Yeah, it's a lot to travel. I don't know over there in Dona, but down here in Nigeria, disability is really expensive.
Hmm.
Yes. Imagine traveling. I went for a community outreach. I will use that as an example. And I had to like buy two seats for myself so that I'll be comfortable. And it's really expensive. Prices hike
Yeah.
during the festive period in terms of transportation. So imagine if you were struggling to pay for one person, or if you were struggling to meet up to paying for two people with the normal price. But because it's festive period, everything is hiking, the prices of food, transportation, everything is hiking, and you have to pay double. I had to pay triple of what I was paying before. And yeah, I know a lot of persons with disability face that a lot. Traveling is a lot, and the comfort of traveling. So during the festive period, it's always a rush hour. I was at the motor park and it was so filled up. It was really hard for me to navigate my way in and out because of the
Mhm.
crowd and all. So there's no special provision for persons with disabilities in terms of being in crowded areas like this when they want to travel, or maybe the motor should be accessible. So there's a lot that hinders
Mhm.
accessibility of persons with disabilities, and it's a lot.
Yeah. And also with the fact that people with disabilities also face a lot of problems with getting a job and even going to that job, like to physically get to that place is even harder. And
Mm.
what do you think is the main challenge when it comes to the holidays for people with disabilities? Is it working or is it because here, actually people with disabilities are less likely to work. So we have a lot of issues with their rights to work. And so, yeah, I wanted to talk about more about what are some of those challenges during the holidays.
Okay, so I was in Kenya in May,
Hmm.
and I met a lot of persons with disabilities. I was at the UN Civil Society conference, and there was this side event about 1 billion persons with disabilities, and we looking at people from Australia, people from Kenya, people from Rwanda, a lot of people, some from Brazil, talk about the same thing that's happening in Nigeria. And I looked at them, I was so surprised. So we're all facing these similar things. I was at a job exam, CBT exams last week, and the rights of persons with disabilities in Nigeria says 50% of recruitment. We were only 18% with disabilities. among 500 persons. And imagine none of us passed the exams. It's not like the exams was not hard. So in Nigeria, there's a lot of corruption. You have to be a child of a minister, president, or a very wealthy family before you get a job. So they made it look like they were inclusive because they lodged us in a hotel. They were nice, but with cameras in our face. So it's more like they were trying to prove a point, but they were not really inclusive. And after the exams, they just failed almost everyone. They picked the people they wanted to pick and passed them, and they failed almost everyone. Me, for say, I know what I did because it was a basic maths and some basic courses, and I'm a PhD student.
Okay.
So I've passed the level of, yeah, I'm a PhD student. I'm in the second year. I've passed the
Congratulations.
level of, thank you. I've passed the level of maybe undergraduates, going to graduates, and I'm doing my PhD. So I should have a level of intelligence, and you
Yeah.
would know from my that I know what I'm doing, but I didn't get the job. So there's no job for persons with disabilities, even in Nigeria. Even if there's a job, there's a problem of accessibility. I keep saying accessibility because as a
Yeah.
person with physical challenge, it's really, really hard. It's really hard. The schools, the hospitals, the malls, the ministries, the commissions, they do not have all these accessible devices, e.g. the ramps, the elevators. You have to walk up the staircase, panting, tired. So it's really hard. There are no jobs for one for persons with disabilities. You could tell I finished my undergraduate, I did my
Yeah.
master's, no job. Doing my PhD, no job.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a lot.
So we could definitely say that we're on the same page because
We are on the
yes,
same page.
yeah, because well, I don't know how much you know about the Balkans and everything, but corruption is also a huge problem here. So if if you don't have someone that you know or someone that can put you in a place where you're gonna have the benefits that you need, then it is much harder to do what you want to do.
Adam, yeah.
Yes. And so that's why we had the vision of this is one of the goals that we want to do, right? We had the vision of first starting with tourism because where I'm from, there's a lot of stigma around people with disabilities just being outside and being visible.
Mm,
It
mm,
it doesn't matter if it's a physical or like whatever the disability is, there is a stigma around that disability. And a lot of people also have outdated mindsets about people with disabilities of, what should they do? What should the parents do?
mm,
How should they act? Like, they it's kind of like a mental thing. Like it's basically like people have some sort of mindset, and that's the only way that they know, and that's the only vision that they have for people with disabilities. They think that people with disabilities should, let's say, stay at home, not talk to people, not socialize, not get a job, all of these things. And what we're trying to do is basically show that people with disabilities can have a job, can socialize, can go out, and that's a basic human right. It doesn't,
yeah.
it doesn't put us in a special category that we don't have a disability, so we have a job. It just doesn't.
Mm.
And so, yeah, so that's why we are starting with tourism. And the place that we're
Advocacy and awareness, yeah.
yeah, and the place that we're working at is a mountain. It's a village on a mountain. So, there are a lot of challenges to even get to that mountain, but we're working on um, just making this safe place for people with disabilities where
This
we could,
definitely.
yeah, where we could show people that they can socialize and they can live quote unquote normally. And then we have our next goal, which is um, ma kind of giving them a job. And so we could
Okay.
make them make our products. We could make them go to fairs and sell them and talk to people.
Mm.
So that's kind of our further goal from now. But yeah, all of these things, they're very difficult to even say, even talk about. People, it's a very closed-minded mindset that we're working on here. And so how do you think that Christmas and the holidays um could be a safe place for people with disabilities? What are some of actions that you say we could do?
Okay, so for one, I feel our government needs to come in on this. We have to advocate as the CSOs, as the individuals, as persons with disabilities who are affected by these changes and these inequalities around us. We have to tell the government to make specific provisions for persons with disabilities. For example, there should be maybe a separate transportation, not so you
Yeah.
could segregate them, but there should be a special transportation to ease the stress of persons with disabilities. A person maybe, for example, that is visually impaired cannot navigate the environment around him because we do not have these accessible technologies for him to navigate. So why not just make sure he has a separate means of transportation he could go, and even in our shopping malls, so they are not accessible, make it more accessible, write a policy that
Yeah.
has to be passed on in by the lawmakers, make it a law, make it a rule that every citizen must abide by. That's what is its festive period. We should have like a regulated price for
Mhm.
persons with disabilities in terms of transportation. But I'm hammering on transport because it's a lot during
Yeah.
this festive period. It starts with transport because before it goes anywhere, maybe in goods or environment you're going to, you have to transport yourself there. If there's going to be a fixed price, a subsidized rate for persons with disabilities to ease their accessibility, because hiking the prices is not going to be easy for them. Secondly, if we are going to make sure that environments, maybe for example, the shopping malls, the parks where people go to celebrate, is also accessible for them to comfortably celebrate with their families and other people.
Yeah.
So, for example, now when it's Christmas, and maybe a shopping mall is crowded, there's no provision for emergencies of persons with disabilities. Everyone is just worried about, okay, the person without the disability. I had to detract a bit. I watched a video yesterday on
Mhm.
social media where the lady just met everyone on the street with wheelchair, and they were almost trying to hit her. And she went into the bank, and the person was doing a sign language for her because he couldn't hear her, and she was so lost. He went to the library to read, but all the books are written in relay. And then the end at the caption it says, if you're feeling lost, imagine how we are feeling.
Yeah.
It was a very catchy video. So our government, and even people at, not just the government, everyone has to put themselves in our shoes. They
Yes.
have to live the life we are living. They have to feel it before they are able to like do things and put provisions for us that it's going to make it easy. So yeah, during this festive period, I would hammer on accessibility. I'll hammer on I'm going to hammer on subsidies for persons with disabilities in terms of transportation.
Hmm. And I would just like to talk about, so actually in August, as a enterprise, we were part of this training for our business, for pitching, for just mostly focused on the business aspect, right?
Mm, mm,
And I was picked to pitch about the organization and about what we do, and share the vision, right? And
mhm,
when I sat down and, because I had to do a whole presentation and everything, and you have like a limit of how much you can talk, you can't, and when I sat down and we had a mentor, and I talked to her, and I said, "Do you know how our organization, our enterprise actually started?" And she was like, "No, like tell me about it." And I was like, "Actually, when we were locked up in COVID and we had
mm,
quarantines, we sat down at home and we felt so horrible. We felt like we were in prison."
mm,
And that made us think about the challenges and the real life of people with disabilities, because this is someone's everyday life. This is
mm,
normal for someone. And she looked at me and she goes, "Mila, you have to talk about this. You have to start your presentation, your pitch with this." And when I did the presentation, I was like, "So who felt good when they were in quarantine? Who liked it?" And everyone was silent. It was silence in the room.
wow,
Yeah, because no one liked it. And I was like, well, actually, people with disabilities, their normal lives look like that. And
mm,
everyone was so shocked and was like, "Oh my God, what is she talking about?" And I was like, "Yes, this is what." And then I got into the numbers of things, because there are a lot of numbers about the fact that people with disabilities are unemployed, they're facing challenges, and all of these things. So when I said all of that, my presentation was mostly, again, advocacy and telling people like, "Hey, actually this is what is happening," because most people don't think about these things. So yeah, it's but I also at the same time feel sad that I have to start my presentation for people with disabilities saying they are humans and they have human rights too. So yeah,
yeah.
that just made me really, I don't know, it's very unsettling to think about that. But tell me more about how does your Christmas gonna look? How is it different? What do you think it's different? How are celebrations gonna go? What are people with disabilities facing over there during the holidays? Talk about SDGs, everything, all of these goals. But when it comes to the season of Christmas, all of a sudden, nothing matters, nothing, and everyone is overspending, overbuying, all of these things. But what are some of those milestones that you hit in 2024? And let us hear more about that.
So you know this thing that people actually do talk about, and they say someone's fall is someone's glory. I'm not happy that a lot of people are struggling, but this year has been great. It has been really exciting. Um, One, maybe because I overworked myself and I'm still trying to find a day that I could just sleep for the whole day and do no work. So I lost my mom last year, and it kind of hit me really hard because I was my mommy's baby, and she did most of the things for me. She was helping me get support from my organization and all. So I felt like I've lost my push, but I'm going to make it alone without her, because it's also one of her visions. She was so proud of me when I started this initiative to help young girls. So I promised myself that I'm going all out this year to do great projects. And I would say it's the best so far because I got 3 grants to
Amazing.
conduct projects. Yeah, amazing. Thank you. So the first one was the climate action project, and the second, which we are wrapping up by next week. The second one is a project. It's called Disability Tech Project, where we identify government schools and children in those schools that have zero knowledge about technology or computers, some of computers. I came from the school earlier. That was where I went to. And when I was coming back, I met the traffic. So yeah, so we kind of want to engage them in computer literacy, graphic design, and outside that, visual imagery, so that they can have sense of belonging and know what text is all about and what it can do. We want to have a mental health session because in Nigeria, they feel, because some of us in the north are very traditional, and their thinking is obsolete, like you mentioned in your own country. They feel you should always be strong, whatever is wrong with you, don't talk to people. So mental health is also something very daring, and within kids with disabilities. I remember writing a book. It's called Odyssey of a Bleeding Rose. I published in October, and I spoke about how I was stigmatized and I almost committed suicide because I didn't have a safe space to talk to people. So we want to create a mental health awareness for those children. So everything I'm doing, I'm seeing myself as a vision. I don't want any child with disability to go through what I went through. So and apart from the mental health, we want to also teach them about disability inclusion. We want them to be aware of their rights as persons with disabilities. We want them to be aware of this provision that government has to do what their parents are supposed to do. So it's going to be an extensive project. And then the third one is on young women with disabilities and those without, generally those in communities. So I'm from a state, I mentioned Nasarawa State, and each time I meet people from Nasarawa State that are men, and they are doing really well in their field, and when they hear me talk, and they'll be like, I'm very surprised you're from Nasarawa State. You speak so eloquently. You're so intelligent. We hardly have ladies like this in Nasarawa State. So it keeps making me sad when I hear that.
Yeah.
I want to see girls from my own state. I want to be proud of them. I want to see them out there. So we did a project. So it's a continuation of the climate action project, where we train the young girls on leadership. So it's going to be political leadership and also climate resilience leadership training. I want to see them, I want to groom them on how to be better leaders. So we're going to have extensive training, whether it's political leadership, any form of leadership, and they are going to, for 6 months, they will shadow. I've spoken to one of our commissioners. She's the lady. A VC to the university she's the lady. I'm also a lady, so I'm going to relinquish my position as the executive director to shadow that young lady, to empower her, to train her. just so that I won't keep hearing, oh, you're from Nasarawa State and you speak so eloquently. It's so hard to get young ladies in Nasarawa State that are like you. So I want to empower and mentor other young ladies to do better than I do. So it has been really exciting, and I look forward to completing all my projects, and I can't wait to see the impact I'm going to make. So 2024 has been an amazing year for me. Yeah, it has.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, and sadly, we don't have much time left, so I'm gonna let you talk about 2025 and what are some of the things that you want to do, and we'll wrap it up.
Okay. I look forward to 2025. I want to draft my strategy for 3 years, maybe on 31st or 26th or 31st. It depends on the date my team members choose. Because what we've been able to achieve this year was actually a 2-year strategy, and we're left with, so what next?
Yeah.
So we want to draft a new strategy. Yes, we want to draft a new strategy, but the strategy we want to draft is not going to be a total new thing, because it's one thing for you to do a project and just leave. No, we don't want that. We want a continuous project. We want a long-term project.
Yeah.
This is me starting to train these young ladies. I want to keep training more young ladies with disabilities so that they can have equal opportunities, so that they can have a voice, so that they can lead also one day. I want to continue this tech project because in Nigeria, persons with disabilities are seen as maybe uneducated, they're just beggars. And I wrote an article about bridging the gap of technology between persons with disabilities. For example, we have Ray-Ban eyeglasses that help the visually impaired persons. I want to do an extensive training whereby these persons with disabilities will be able to create a technology going to be beneficiary for them and other clients of persons with disabilities. So we don't have to go and buy eyeglass Ray-Bans. They are so expensive, they're not even affordable. We want to create an application that reduces the barriers of the hearing impaired person and the person who does not know how to speak English, for example, just know his local dialect. Let's have an application that they can easily communicate with each other. So that's my long-term goals, and I know it won't just be achievable in 2025. I'm optimistic.
Yeah.
But then we will do something in 2025.
Thank you one more time to both Aisha and Shamsiyyah for taking the time to do these interviews and collaborate this holiday season on our special initiative. Thank you all for watching this video till the end. By liking, sharing, and commenting on this video, you are actively choosing to advocate for a more sustainable and inclusive holiday season. And at last, we wish you a Merry Christmas and a sustainable and inclusive New Year.